Hi, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from StreetScores, and I have 4 main topics to discuss today. It's almost like a Rico report, but not quite. We have apparently edge rusher Myles Garrett to the Washington Commanders is obvious, according to a national media analyst. Also, Deebo Samuel will apparently be cut if the 49ers can't find a way to trade him. Will the Commanders pounce on that? We're going to dive into all of that. Also, apparently the Washington Commanders had the best draft class from the 2024 season. We're going to dive into that. And also, there's even been an announcement that we should be getting some new black helmets in 2025. That's not even including maybe the new uniform that we're probably getting as well. We're going to dive into everything and more, but before we do, of course, y'all already know I have a trivia question for y'all for February 16th. I have a fun fact that I will give y'all the fun fact at the end of it, because there's no like trivia question to go with it. So just stay tuned for the end of the video for the fun fact. Also, this video is sponsored by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. And before we get into everything, make sure you still follow that like button, still follow the subscription button, and still follow the bell next to that subscription button so you get a notification each and every time I release an informative and opinion video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned for all of the content, and can I keep hitting y'all with these videos, man? I have so many mock drafts and so many ideas I got to get to. They're on the way, I promise. Let's get it. Adam. All right, so let's start with Myles Garrett, because I'm assuming that that's why most people came to this video, so I'm not going to hate on y'all and save it for last. We'll go ahead and knock it out immediately. And Bill Barnwell of ESPN, inside sources, say that the Commanders are the best landing spot for Myles Garrett. His quote was, "The Commanders are the most obvious and consequential landing spot for Garrett. They have the championship potential, the financial flexibility, and the clear and obvious need for pass rushing help." Unquote. Hey, shouts out to him for speaking it into existence. I mean, with him being an insider at ESPN alongside guys like Adam Schefter, and he's in the same world as like Ian Rappaport and like Jeremy Fowler and those guys, and Albert Breer, like he feels like the Commanders are not only the top landing destination, he feels like it's the most obvious, like duh, like obviously the Commanders are the ones that if the Browns are willing to trade them away, they make the most sense by far. Like it's got to be the Commanders. We start with the Commanders and then we start after that. And then shouts out to Ivan Lambert of Commanders Wire, because he did a pretty good job breaking it down. He said on Thursday, ESPN's Bill Barnwell published his column, as usual, is quite lengthy, in which he broke down the NFL teams into tiers regarding who can and could not obtain Myles Garrett. I would highly suggest going to go look at that article just to kind of size up the Commanders as well. Now, of course, we're going to talk about the Commanders part of this, but I feel like it's still a pretty cool article, because you see like, okay, the Commanders are like this obvious, they make the most sense, but you can also look at other teams and see like why they make not like they don't make as much sense but still make sense as well. I would definitely suggest going to go look at that. But continuing what Ivan said, why did Barnwell say the Commanders are the top candidate to land Garrett, who by the way has accumulated 102.5 quarterback sacks in 8 seasons as a Brown? Quote, "The Commanders are the most obvious and consequential landing spot for Garrett." And already repeating what I just said with the championship potential, financial flexibility, pass rush help, all of that type of stuff. Barnwell also pointed out the Commanders will have Jayden Daniels for 3 more years before they need to consider even his 5th-year option, and then they have roughly $80 million in cap space for 2025. Dante Fowler and Dorance Armstrong are not considered long-term quality pass rushers, though Fowler, age 30, had a terrific year with 10.5 sacks. The Commanders need a pass rush, and don't forget too, Dorance Armstrong, I think, led our team in sacks in the playoffs, so don't sleep on him as well, but like we still need like a dominant force. They're good parts of a rotation, but I don't think your starter should be Dante Fowler and Dorance Armstrong Jr. Continuing what Ivan said, the Commanders need a pass rusher and an end that can seal the edge much better on runs, and that's our biggest weakness. Love Dorance Armstrong, love Dante Fowler, but we need a pass rushing upgrade, but we need a monumental edge setting run stopping upgrade. Like that's the reason we need Myles Garrett the most. Getting after the quarterback, yes, Myles Garrett can help in a big way there as well, but the biggest gap between Dante Fowler and Dorance Armstrong to Myles Garrett is the edge setting and run stopping. Teams can run to the outside on us all they wanted. And if you would have told me Dante Fowler would have played as many snaps that he did this season, way back when we first signed him, I would have told you, yeah, we're probably going to be weak against the run. Especially with like Clelin Ferrell, he was brought here specifically to only really set the edge and stop the run. But between his injuries and not being a heavy part of the rotation, because I guess he wasn't playing well enough for Dan Quinn and Joey Jr. to feel like he should be out there more, you could just, if you would have told me all of those factors would have happened, I would have told you a long time ago our run defense would have been terrible, especially to the outsides. Clelin Ferrell, our only true run defending, edge setting edge rusher, our only certified proven one through years of doing it at the NFL level, you know, not some like random rookie or young recently drafted guy that maybe they have potential to. Clelin Ferrell was our only proven edge setting run stopper, and he barely played, staying hurt, all of it, whatever. Dante Fowler, Dorrance Armstrong, again, love them, but they're more pass rushers. So I mean, Myles Garrett would, of course, again, help our pass rush ability, but the biggest reason that we have to trade for Myles Garrett is that we can finally stop the run against all of these elite running backs that we keep going against. Between Derrick Henry, the NFL is going to try to match Lamar Jackson versus Jayden Daniels as often as they can, just like how they used to do Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. They made sure that they played almost every season possible. Then we have to play the Falcons again next year with Bijan Robinson. You got to go against the Eagles twice a year with Saquon. Don't even sleep on the Giants running backs as well. And then the Dallas Cowboys, I'm pretty sure they're going to do whatever they can to upgrade their running back group. And we let Rico Dowdle run like crazy on us the couple of times that we played the Cowboys. So even without them having an elite running back, we were still allowing them to run the ball well against us. So that is the biggest need for arguably the entire team, an edge setting run defender that also can get to the quarterback to where you're not just one-dimensional like a Clelin Ferrell, which is probably why he didn't play much. But continuing with Ivan, he said the Commanders need a pass rusher and an end that can seal the edge much better on runs, as Washington was one of the weaker run defenses in the NFL. Barnwell suggested the Commanders would need to trade their 29th overall choice in April's NFL draft alongside perhaps defensive tackle Jonathan Allen. Barnwell concluded, quote, if the Browns are actually willing to deal Garrett, the Commanders should be the very first team that they call, unquote. And then the story is also divided into sections by Barnwell. 1, what could the Browns get for Garrett? 2, the teams that have no chance to add him. 3, the teams that could be involved as a third party. 4, unlikely but plausible, teams that have a case. 5, maybe, teams that Garrett puts over the top. And then 6, yes, the 3 teams that should do it as soon as possible. And of course, the Commanders were one of 3 teams in that last and final category 6. And then again, out of those 3 teams, Bill Barnwell says we're number 1. We are the most obvious choice out of all of the teams in the NFL, all of the other 31 NFL teams. And then we got an update. Now, granted, it's a rumor, but back on February 6th, Myles Garrett apparently updated his preferred trade partners, the Bills, Commanders, Eagles, Cowboys, Bucks, 49ers, and the Chiefs. And then there was a report from a whole different source, same day, but later on, that Myles Garrett has interest in joining the Commanders and the Lions. Either way you put it, the Commanders are always in a list of supposed rumored landing spots that Myles Garrett is interested in. And then you also even have, hey, shouts out to Mr. Titan because he tried it. He tweeted back during like the whole Super Bowl week and everything, where all of the media and players were around each other. He tweeted, just met Myles Garrett and asked him if he wanted to come join the Titans. He said, quote, for what? Y'all haven't built anything, unquote. And then he also said, quote, for that, I'll stay where I'm at, unquote. Hey, so shouts out to that Titans reporter and content creator right there that he at least he tried it. He tried to see like where Myles Garrett was, and Myles Garrett was like, well, there's no way you think that's even like a place I might even want to go right now. And so, hey, it just makes it even better that we're one of the teams that he is willing to go to. He's compared us to other teams and is like, yep, that team has a franchise quarterback. That team just went to the NFC Championship with all of the holes that they have. I need to go there type of thing. And then also back on February 5th, star cornerback of the Cleveland Browns, Denzel Ward, said if the Browns trade Myles Garrett, he will question if he even wants to stay in Cleveland. He said, quote, I want to play with Myles. He's a Hall of Fame player. I came in the league. He was on the team, and that's my guy, unquote. And they have so many pictures of them together everywhere, on the field, off the field, and things like that. So he's clearly really close to him. And, you know, maybe that makes our situation harder and like worse on the Commanders. Like the Browns are already saying they don't want to trade Myles Garrett, just period. But then Denzel Ward is threatening to request a trade as well if they do end up trading Myles Garrett. So now you're going to lose your best edge rusher and your best corner, your best player on the entire team, and your best corner. all from one simple move of trading just one of the guys. Now the other guy wants to go as well, so that probably makes things harder for the Commanders, because now the Browns are like, oh nah, we already didn't want to trade Myles Garrett. Now if we trade him, we got to trade our best corner too. So I don't know, man. Denzel Ward may be making the block hot a little bit, but shouts out to FanDuel, because they put out a trade scenario that a lot of people have responded to. Of course, here's the graphic right here. They said the Commanders receive Myles Garrett and the Browns get our 2025 first round pick, our 2026 first round pick, which, I mean, we trade for Myles Garrett. That 2026 first round pick will probably be 32nd, dead last in the first round, because we won the Super Bowl. And then also wide receiver Luke McCaffrey, who I love his potential, but we haven't found a great use for him yet. So I'm not even sure if the Browns will be willing to take this trade. But on the Commanders end, you do this trade immediately. You say no take backsies if they actually offer this trade. But of course, I want to know how y'all feel in the comment section about that trade scenario. Are you willing to do the 2 first-round picks and wide receiver Luke McCaffrey? Even though I'm a pretty big Luke McCaffrey fan, I still feel like there's some time for them to figure that out and for him to be a pretty good receiver for this team, even though I'm not about to avoid signing, you know, T. Higgins or trading for Garrett Wilson or whatever, just assuming that he'll develop into that guy this season. I need to go get guys right now, because we know Jayden Daniels is a top 5 quarterback on a rookie deal. We're trying to win right now, so I don't have time to play the development game with Luke McCaffrey right now and bank our season on him, but I still have faith that he'll be good. But let me know if you're willing to give I am as big of a Luke McCaffrey fan as I am. I'm still willing to do that trade easily, no take backsies type of trade. And then also shouts out to Chad Forbes at NFL Draft Bites. He tweeted, the only season that Dan Quinn had an edge rusher finish with 10 plus sacks in Atlanta, the Falcons reached the Super Bowl. Never got the edge rusher figured out in 6 years. A major reason why Dan Quinn got fired as a head coach for the Falcons, not specifically the Dallas Cowboys. He offered picks 29 and 79, plus the Commanders' 2026 first round pick and a 2027 second round pick. And you know why he included all of that? Because he said the Commanders should go ahead and get Myles Garrett and Greg Newsome II. And I mean, hey, 29-79 next year's first and 2027's second round pick for Myles Garrett and Greg Newsome, I'm probably willing to do that as well. But shouts out to Chad Forbes, again, at NFL Draft Bites, completely neutral analyst, national analyst, a guy that focuses solely on the draft, no attachment bias towards for the Commanders in any way. He pointed out the fact that the only season that Dan Quinn was a head coach and he had a guy with at least 10 plus sacks, he immediately reached the Super Bowl. And so even his point is, Dan Quinn has to realize, I need an elite edge rusher. Even if you just go back from his time with the Cowboys, him and Joey Jr. produced the top takeaway defense for 3 years. And Micah Parsons was a huge part of that. And I'm pretty sure Dan Quinn and Joey Jr. also recognize that as well. Who knows if Adam Peters wants to do it, but you can bet Dan Quinn and Joey Jr. want Myles Garrett bad. Also, shouts out to at Commanders Realm on Twitter. He brings up a great point. He said a Myles Garrett acquisition would give Washington not only the best quarterback in the NFC, but also the best pure pass rusher in the NFC as well. A+ at 2 of the 3 most important positions in football. Hard to be against it. I completely agree. But then again, not everybody thinks that we will go and get Myles Garrett, or that we even should. Because shouts out to John Com and Ben Standig. He asked beat reporter Matt Burrows of the 49ers about Washington Commanders GM Adam Peters. He said, quote, I thought that the 2024 draft, he hit it out of the park. And Adam Peters is a draft guy. That's where he makes his bones. So my guess would be that he will be hesitant to do that Myles Garrett trade because the Commanders do have a lot of work to do, particularly on defense, unquote. And again, that's coming from a 49ers beat reporter saying that, like, from his point of view of being around Adam Peters for the last few years until, like, you know, Adam Peters just became our general manager in 2024. Leading up to that, he's been around Adam Peters, and knowing how Adam Peters likes to work and all of the behind the scenes stuff, he feels like Adam Peters will more than likely prefer to keep and use as many draft picks as he can on actual drafted players and not spend a lot of draft picks on the trade player. I still think hey, Myles Garrett is different though. Everything changes when you're talking about Myles Garrett. But shouts out to George Cartman. He quote tweeted and said, I agree. Although the Myles Garrett edition would be exciting and fun, I'm not sure if it matches what Peters wants to do. We already have a deficit this year in the draft, only 3 top 100 picks and no 4th or 6th. And if we give away a first and a second this year, the 2025 draft is a wash. And I can see that. Like, I kind of agree, but at the same time, man, compared to this talent coming out in 2026 and maybe even 2027 as well, I'm willing to sacrifice the 2025 draft to get Myles Garrett, and then you load up in the 2026 draft. I don't know. That's just me. And then also, speaking of the 2024 draft class that Browns beat reporter brought up, shouts out to NFL Game Days Gennaro Felice. I hope that's how you pronounce that name. But either way, as you can see on the screen right now with this graphic, they listed the top 10 2024 draft classes. Of course, you have the Green Bay Packers down at the bottom, 10, Ravens 9th, San Francisco 49ers 8th, Philadelphia Eagles 7th, Giants 6th, Tampa Bay Buccaneers 5th, Las Vegas Raiders 4th, Chargers 3rd, Los Angeles Rams 2nd, and then the Washington Commanders 1st. Now, of course, I'm pretty sure this is absolutely carried by the fact that we have Jayden Daniels, but I'm pretty sure Jayden Daniels is not enough to make us literally number 1 out of everybody. I don't think he's enough to take us all the way to the best draft class just by himself. I feel like Mike Sainristil, Johnny Newton, Brandon Coleman, and then we've seen flashes of greatness from Jordan McGee. I can't wait for him to finally be healthy so a lot of our fans realize, hey, we have a really good one in that linebacker group with him. Ben Sinnott has some potential as well. Again, most of this, by far most of it, is Jayden Daniels, but you know Jayden Daniels was not able to carry this to number 1. Jayden Daniels was ridiculous and had the best rookie season in NFL history, but I don't think that's enough to just like put us over. You have the Eagles 7th, even with all of their great picks with Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, all of that type of stuff. So, hey, man, shouts out to NFL Game Day for that one. And just to remind y'all, that was year 1 of this franchise's rebuild. So it's safe to assume that we could at least have one of the best draft classes this upcoming season, right? This upcoming draft. Even without a top 2 pick, though, that's the only problem. I mean, not even a top 25 pick. We have the 29th overall pick, and to be honest, I think we're actually more likely to use that 29th overall pick to trade for an elite player, even if we're not talking about Myles Garrett. Maybe we're talking about another Garrett and Garrett Wilson or something like that. Or also likely to maybe, even if we don't trade it away for a great player, maybe we trade back in the first round to get more second round picks so we can get multiple players we really like rather than just one we really like at the end of the first round. So I don't even feel like we're necessarily going to be drafting 29th overall by the time it's said and done, but still, it shouts out to Adam Peters and the guys for coming in year 1, putting together the best draft class in the entire NFL. Again, carried by Jayden Daniels, but I don't think Jayden Daniels is holding all of the weight himself. And again, I don't think that we're going to necessarily be able to replicate that next year because you're not going to draft another player as impactful as Jayden Daniels. You don't even have a top 25 pick, and we picked 2nd overall last draft. But I still feel like we can go out there and do some damage, you know what I'm saying? Also, shouts out to Logan Paulson because he graded the Commanders 2024 draft class himself on the show that he has with Craig Hoffman, the Take Command podcast. This was like over a week ago. And basically just to do like a quick synopsis of every pick from that podcast episode, Jayden Daniels. The number 1 thing for me was his consistency. The amount of work each week to get back to that pinnacle, for him to come back each and every week and trust the process was impressive. Johnny Newton. At times, he was physically outmatched. I'm excited to see him in year 2 with a full offseason. Remember, he was hurt pretty much the entire offseason. Can't wait to see what he actually does with this first real offseason, even though he's going to be a second-year player. I do think you see the work ethic and the physical play. And that's from Logan Paulson again. Mike Sainristil, he said, what Sainristil did this year can't be overstated. The flexibility he brought to the defense, he embodies what it means to be a commander. He's a special football player. I agree. Ben Sinnott, he said, you see the athlete, the physicality, the want to. He is not the underneath route running winner that Zach Ertz is. At times, he had a lack of awareness in the run game as well. So some things to improve on, but you see the want to, you see the willing to, you see the mentality, you see the aggression. He has everything he needs mentally and physically. He just has to basically put it all together. Brandon Coleman, he probably exceeded expectations playing tackle. He was moved from guard to tackle at TCU. He's a good athlete, and he is for sure a starting NFL offensive lineman. Basically, he's questioning, maybe it's not at tackle, maybe it's at guard, but either way, he is is a true starting offensive lineman. You know that. If you can get a starting offensive lineman in the 3rd round, you basically did well. It may not necessarily be tackle where we played him at all last season, but at least you know you have a starting offensive lineman to work with as you do this offensive line shuffle going into this offseason. Because, of course, you got to remember, Samuel Cosmi just got torn ACL surgery like weeks ago. So I'm not expecting him to even be ready week 1 of the regular season, but we'll see. Then Luke McCaffrey. He is not yet a great separator. Only played receiver 2 years previously. You got to remember that. He's just switched to receiver 2 years before we drafted him. He competes. He's tough. He's a bigger body guy. And what is his role for next year? Question mark. Jordan McGee. He's got that competitive dog. Was injured in the preseason, then again in season. I'm excited for him to get healthy and play. Remember, Frankie Louvu was raving about him in the offseason. If you watch Jordan McGee tape, if you have any access to like the NFL All 22 provided by like NFL.com, and you just go look at Jordan McGee tape from this past season when he was healthy, you would be very excited about his potential in this defense. Like, I mean, I'm talking like the guy that's going to take over after Bobby Wagner eventually leaves, potentially after this 2025 season, because I think we will re-sign Bobby Wagner to another 1-year deal. I can see Jordan McGee and Frankie Louvu being like our two-headed, one of the best linebacker duos in the NFL type of guys. And then Dominique Hampton was learning a new position. You got to remember, he moved from basically free safety to off-ball middle linebacker. So that was tough. Being converted from safety down to linebacker, might not ever play in the NFL. That's interesting. So we'll see. The Logan Paulson basically feels like Dominique Hampton was probably our biggest wasted pick. He doesn't feel like Dominique Hampton will ever have a chance to play in the NFL. We'll see, though. He's just questioning it. He's not saying that he won't. He's not saying that Dominique Hampton is bad. He will never play in the NFL, but he's just questioning, hey, man, it may never work out. Watch out. Javonte Jean-Baptiste. He said, I like his length, play strength. For a 7th round pick to be in the mix for playing time next year, that is a good thing. He's a find at 222 overall. He basically feels like Javonte Jean-Baptiste. To find a guy that can contribute and play like on Sundays in the 7th round is very impressive in itself. Again, I feel like Jayden Daniels carried this draft class, and that's why we are number 1 according to NFL Game Day. But it's not just Jayden Daniels. Without the Javonte Jean-Baptistes, without the Brandon Colemans and the Mike Sanderstills, we wouldn't have the number 1 draft class. And then he also included 2 undrafted free agents that we picked up immediately after the draft. My dog Tyler Owens, that I was screaming about before the draft even happened. I was screaming about him all the way back since last year, February, March or something like that. So I was super excited when we got him. And then he balled out, especially on special teams. Logan Paulson said, quote, a special teams maniac. That may be how he makes his NFL money, unquote. He may just be a perpetual Pro Bowler as a special teamer. Like basically how we picked up Nick Bellore to do that, and then he ended up being another Pro Bowl. He had another Pro Bowl level season. He's predicting that Tyler Owens can be that guy. I think he's just so athletic, though. Maybe he'll learn how to play safety a little bit better and actually be able to contribute defensively. But at the very least, we know we have an elite special teams guy. Another Jeremy Reeves, another Nick Bellore type of guy. And then also Kosin Yonkov. He said, quote, another maniac, fast, big, strong, really covered kicks well. Yonkov and Owens have roles for next year for sure. And so I'm really excited about those guys as well. Now, granted, we're talking special teams only, but we're also talking about undrafted free agents that weren't selected in the draft. They went undrafted. And for you to find guys undrafted that have definitive roles where you know they're making the 53-man roster and they're going to contribute in some way on Sundays, even if it's not necessarily on defense or on offense, that's still special pickups right there from the Commanders organization and Adam Peters and all of those guys. Now, before we move on to the second half of this video, man, y'all already know, man, this show is provided by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino, and if you're looking for a new sportsbook, it should be BetUS for sure. First of all, they have the fastest payouts in the industry, and I know y'all want y'all money fast, and right now, BetUS is offering you a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit and a 125% sign-up bonus on your next 2 deposits for up to $2,000 with code U250. That's YOUTUBE150. They also have a fast and easy deposit and withdrawal process as well. So it's really like, why not? Now let's take a look at some bets that we can get into directly through their website, especially some Commanders related bets that we can get into. So right now we're looking at the MVP odds right now for the 2025-2026 NFL regular season. Right now, Jayden Daniels is 5th in the highest odds right now. Lamar Jackson, number 1, who should have won it this past year, but it is what it is. Josh Allen, number 2. Joe Burrow, 3. Pat Mahomes, 4. And then you have Jayden Daniels. Above Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, CJ Stroud, Jordan Love, Kyler Murray, and even I guess from the Bears point of view, Caleb Williams, even though we kind of ignore them, they're so focused on everything that we do, and I forget that the Bears even exist, Bears fans even exist. But hey, let them do what they got to do. Whatever motivates them to be better, do what you got to do, man. But we already checkmated your new head coach in Ben Johnson for the Lions. I'm not expecting it to go much better for y'all either, but it is what it is. We got Jayden Daniels. I'm happy to have him, and the fact that he's 5th in MVP odds, super excited. Remember, he got a couple of 4th place and a couple of 5th place votes when it came to the final MVP odds and voting and all of that type of stuff. So he's already there, and I'm assuming, especially after the free agency that we have to improve this team, I think it's quite likely that he could really compete for MVP. Remember, he was like 2nd, only behind Josh Allen in MVP like voting and expectations, until the rib injury kind of set him back a couple of games, and we lost a few games, lost to the Steelers and the Eagles, Cowboys, all of that. We won like that little ugly run of games, and again, I blame the rib injury on a lot of that. A lot of people were saying, oh, he finally looks like a rookie, but I feel like it was way more about his rib injury that he was kind of playing through and ignoring and you know, trying to not to make it a big deal, but I feel like it was. And so my point is, Jayden Daniels was basically right there with Josh Allen for a lot of the season until he got hurt. Imagine if Jayden Daniels stays healthy, man. So I don't think it's unrealistic at all, and I think 5th highest odds may honestly be a steal, because right now, if you put $100 on this bet, you could end up winning $850 from that plus 850 odds of Jayden Daniels winning MVP. So if you put $100 down on it today, and then Jayden Daniels does end up winning MVP within like the next 350 something days, it's gonna be a long time from now, but if he does, you end up turning $100 into $850. But of course, I'm always going to scream at y'all to please make sure, if y'all don't do nothing else, y'all gamble responsibly, please. And before we move on to the video, again, right now, BetUS is offering you a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit and a 125% sign-up bonus on your next 2 deposits for up to $2,000 with code YouTube150. And again, please make sure, if you don't do nothing else, you gamble responsibly. Now let's get to the second half of this video. All right, so next up, there's a report from a lot of trustworthy sources that the San Francisco 49ers are expected, not even considering, they're expected to release Deebo Samuel with a post-June 1st designation. And just to let you know, this is coming about because the 49ers have announced that, first of all, Deebo Samuel requested a trade. Then the 49ers was like, all right, go ahead. Juwan Jennings outperformed you anyway. Your Brandon Ayuk and Christian McCaffrey were all hurt a lot of the season, and you still never stepped up to the plate. It was Juwan Jennings that had to step up and make the most of those opportunities, those lost snaps and targets from those guys and carries. So the 49ers are like, all right, go ahead. Now I'm assuming after digging around and making some calls and getting the feel for the NFL trade market and everything like that, especially with all these other receivers that are potentially available, like you could trade for DK Metcalf, you could trade for Garrett Wilson, T. Higgins, Chris Godwin, Amari Cooper, Stephon Diggs, all of these guys will be free agents, and even Cooper Kupp in a similar situation to Deebo Samuel. We're going to talk about that in a little while, but it probably came back to the 49ers like, yo, nobody's willing to give up anything serious for this guy. At this point, y'all might as well just go ahead and cut him. And it sounds like they've come to the decision that they'll cut him as a post-June 1st designation so that they could end up saving more money in cap space. The 49ers will save $5.1 million in cap space if they choose to actually go with that plan of cutting him post-June 1st. If they traded Deebo, they would actually lose $15 million in cap space. So that's also another reason. First of all, teams are probably lowballing them on trades. And then also, if they trade away Deebo, they have to eat up $15 million of dead cap. So it actually gets, their cap space gets worse if they trade away Deebo Samuel. If they wait until after June 1st to cut him, they actually gain back $5 million. So that's a $20 million difference right there. So it makes a lot of sense why they would actually do that. So my main thing is, sounds like the Washington Commanders can basically go and get Deebo Samuel post June 1st without even having to give up any picks. Just completely sign him as a free agent. You could probably get him for fairly cheap after the past couple of down years he's had, especially in 2024, where again, Christian McCaffrey and Brandon Ayuk missed so many games. Juwan Jennings stepped up in their place. Deebo Samuel did not. He looked bad. I mean, we're talking about drops. We're talking about lack of focus. We're talking about complaining to the media. I mean, he's the type of guy that you almost don't want to bring to your organization, but he's still very talented. He's not that old, and I think Cliff Kingsbury, it could figure out a way to get him back to like his 2021 self, or even you could argue his 2023 self was still pretty decent. And then I also feel like this organization, this culture, especially being led by Jayden Daniels, if there were a situation that Deebo Samuel could go to where he feels like he's around a bunch of winners and he's going to do everything it takes to win and going to get back to his A game, I feel like it's us. You know, I feel like with the 49ers, he could just see the writing on the wall last year. He probably is one of those guys where things are going wrong, he's going to go wrong. He's not one of those guys that's going to be self-motivated. And I don't really like having those type of guys on the team. But again, he's talented and maybe you can end up picking him up for free. That's the most important part of this. Like I said, I'm pretty uncomfortable with giving away really any draft picks for Deebo Samuel, especially anything day 2 and up. But even I'm looking at even a 5th or a 6th round pick. Like, I don't know. So if you can wait until June 1st to pick him up, hey man, that may be the move. And y'all already know how those post June 1st cuts get a little weird sometimes, because like sometimes they let the new team sign them before June 1st even happens, but allow the old team to still get their June 1st money advantage, and that's why they wait to cut them. So it's always weird like that. I don't exactly know how that works. And remember, Dove Kleiman already, well, technically Jeremy Fowler already reported from very trustworthy sources that people around the NFL expect the Commanders to make a move for a wide receiver 2 to complement Terry McLaurin. So expect significant moves to be made this offseason for the Commanders. We've already seen a lot of reports about us doing whatever we got to do, being very aggressive as far as helping build this defense up into a Super Bowl contending defense. But offensively, it sounds like everybody around the NFL, this is not even just like Jeremy Fowler reporting this from the Commanders side, basically talking to other teams like, yeah, the Commanders are obviously going to go do whatever they got to do for a wide receiver 2 to complement Terry McLaurin and to help Jayden Daniels out. So my point is, sounds like we're going to go wide receiver hunting. We're not even talking about the draft. We're talking about free agency, via trades, whatever. Now, the only question that I have with this situation is, do you consider Deebo Samuel even good enough to be considered that wide receiver 2 to Terry McLaurin? Or would he be picked up as basically like a wide receiver 3 or just an additional option, and then the Commanders would still be on the hunt for a Terry McLaurin running mate? That's how I feel about it. And remember, Cooper Kupp is still in the same situation where where the Rams even admitted that they're willing to cut him if they can't find a trade partner soon enough. So both Deebo Samuel and Cooper Kupp could potentially just be available as free agents. You may not even have to trade for him. But same thing, Cooper Kupp is not good enough to consider a wide receiver 2 at this point. I feel like both of these guys are glorified wide receiver 3s with maybe some ceilings to contribute as wide receiver 2s, but I wouldn't go in expecting Cooper Kupp nor Deebo Samuel to be your wide receiver 2 in a 17-game regular season and hopefully a 4-game postseason, or maybe you subtract one if we get home field advantage, we get a bye week or something like that if we're the number 1 seed. But you would still, my point is, have to go find a definitive wide receiver 2, even if you do find a way to come away with Cooper Kupp or Deebo Samuel. You're not done. That's not where you stop. You still, okay, we have Cooper Kupp or Deebo Samuel, that's cool and all, but we still need to go get a T. Higgins or a Garrett Wilson or something like that. So we'll see. I mean, I don't think that it's highly unlikely that we don't sign either Cooper Kupp or Deebo Samuel, but at the same time, I still feel like you got to go get another guy with them. That's cool to get them, but that's not it. And before we move on, I also wanted to show y'all how great our cap space situation really is. I found this chart a while ago. It was all the way back on January 20th, and I feel like this is a good video to bring it up, because I know I've told y'all, like, with my own words, that our cap space situation is amazing, right? But I feel like this chart from back in January 20th, again, really shows y'all and puts it into perspective to where you can actually see it and visualize it in us, like, in reference to other NFL teams. Now, granted, things have changed since then. Like, you have the Dolphins out here cutting players like Kendall Fuller and Raheem Mostert. I may do a video on that to create some cap space and things like that. So, things aren't exactly how this chart looks, but this is like a really good general representation of like where we sit in the NFL heading into free agency. And shouts out to Nick Corte on Twitter for even posting this. He said the 2025 effective cap space versus the 2025 snaps entering unrestricted free agency. Basically, how many players are you losing to free agency that were like main, like serious contributors to your team last year, and then how much cap space do you have to spend on other guys that you may want to get from other teams, but also to potentially spend to bring some of those guys back. Well, if you're in the top left quadrant, you're locked in rosters that could expand. Bottom left, you're all in rosters for 2025. That's it. Like you're pretty much locked in. This is what you have. Whatever you have right now, that's pretty much what you're gonna go into the regular season with. Then you have bottom right. I mean, you may have to even let some free agents leave, which the Dolphins have already started doing with cutting Raheem Mostert and Kendall Fuller. And then there's rumors that the Jets may even just straight up cut Devontae Adams. And they also don't want Aaron Rodgers back. And then the Cowboys need to do some things to get in the cap space situation to get their stuff right. So they're looking ugly as well. And then you have us in the top right. Cap dollars to burn to fill looming roster holes. So you can still have enough money to bring back some of the guys that contributed to your winning team last year, and then still have a lot of money left over as well to go and get top guys from other teams. So we're basically in the same realm as like the Vikings, the Chargers, the Raiders, and I guess you could throw the Cardinals in there as well, where, hey man, we're sitting pretty right now with this cap space situation. We are ready to go. I mean, again, with the Patriots, they have a lot of cap space, but they also don't have any like guys from last year that are still on their roster. So they have all of this cap space, but they have so many holes to fill, it almost doesn't matter. I feel like as the Commanders and Vikings are really in the best situation to succeed in this offseason. We're the two teams that are going to pretty much predict it, at least according to this chart, to have the best offseason, the best free agencies out of the entire NFL. You can maybe throw the Chargers or the Raiders in there as well. Raiders, Chargers, Commanders, Vikings are projected to win free agency, basically. So you know that has me excited. Also, what has me excited is that per Zach Cohen, the Commanders will be revealing a new updated black alternative helmet this season. That came out of absolutely nowhere and confirmed by, as of February 13th noon, by Zach Cohen. The teams that will get new alternate helmets are the Browns, the Chargers, Commanders, Saints, and the Steelers. We're one of 5 teams that are getting that. Then he has a category of teams that's still unsure. Broncos, unlikely. Then you have Giants, Packers, and Rams. And then all of the other 23 teams in the NFL are confirmed no new helmets in any fashion. But that doesn't include possible throwbacks, or throwbacks technically aren't new technically as well. But either way, we're one of 5 teams that are going to get new alternate helmets. This also does not include the new jersey that we're potentially going to get as well. That through several reports and sources, it sounds like the Commanders not only are going to get a new black helmet, but we're also going to get a new jersey that's going to basically be like a salute to the old Redskins and the winning culture that we had when we win the Super Bowls and all of that type of stuff. So be on the lookout for a lot of visual changes for the Washington Commanders this season. So be on the lookout for that. I'm super excited to see what we look like. Again, Josh Harris has already said we're not bringing the old name back, but be on the lookout for a jersey that, will help, probably make some of the people that want the name back to feel a little bit better about the future Commanders team. Because, I mean, this Commanders name, hey, it's winning. And so he basically wants to salute to the old winning culture that we had through the Redskins, revitalize that a little bit, and then also kind of combine that with the future of the Commanders. The past of the Redskins, the future of the Commanders, make it one solid thing where everybody's happy, basically. So you're going to have that on top of a black alternate helmet change. So be on the lookout for that as well. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know if you feel about everything discussed in the video. Please still follow that like button, still follow the subscription button, still follow the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. And of course, the answer to the trivia question, I mean, if you made it this far in the video, I salute you. And also, well, there was no trivia question, but the fun fact for today is on February 15th, 1960, Darrell Green was born in Houston. The Pro Football Hall of Fame cornerback, played his entire career in 1983 to 2002 in Washington. He was the first player to play 20 seasons with the same franchise in the same city. Shouts out to Darrell Green for that, man. And when you're talking loyalty, don't get no better than that. And I'm so happy that they honored him. Shouts out to Josh Harris and those guys for coming in year 1 and honoring him and all, and giving him, retiring his jersey, all of that, man. So beautiful how they presented in front of him and his family and things like that. Just absolutely amazing, man. Darrell Green deserves it. But of course, let me know in the comment section how you feel about everything discussed in the video. How you feel about the whole Myles Garrett situation? How do you feel about the whole 2024 Commanders draft class situation? How you feel about Deebo Samuel and Cooper Kupp? You may not be necessarily willing to trade for them, but if they end up getting cut, are you willing to sign them for like, a relatively high value contract, team friendly type of contract sort of thing? And then also let me know how you feel about the Commanders potentially getting a new black helmet, alternate helmet type of tweak, little changes, little update, also on top of the new jerseys that we're planning on getting as well. So let me know how you feel about everything discussed in the video. Of course, make sure you leave a like on the way out, and remember that this video is sponsored by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. And please make sure y'all gamble responsibly, man. If you don't do nothing else, please do that one. Again, I appreciate y'all. Leave a like on the way out. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.